January 10th, 2015 meeting of the Grosse Township Public Services Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll. Riley?
Here.
Schmidtke?
Present.
Nelson? Budney? Benaz? And both Ron Wilder and Phil Kennedy will not be able to join us tonight. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported that the agenda is distributed, be approved. Any questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have the minutes of the January 13th meeting. We have a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2015 regular meeting.
Is there support?
I will second that.
And I'll abstain.
And I'll abstain because I wasn't there either. Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Minutes are approved.
Excuse me, sir. Can the minutes be approved if you and Mr. Riley abstain? That's only a 3 votes.
I read them, unless I assume they're okay.
I think you've got a quorum for the meeting. So if we don't vote, it's 3 yes.
Yeah.
There's no no's. I think that goes okay.
Is that all right?
But that was
Okay.
a ruling from our council.
I think that's what goes.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The quorum's important.
All right, so item number 6, approval of bills, found on pages 5 through 11. You've all had a chance to look at those. Are there any questions?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
First, page 5. The overtime. First of all, I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. The line payroll fund, that is not for the overtime, or is it? Lorinda?
The overtime.
Like, for instance, 1/6/2015, $11,352. Is that the over for 3 hours?
No, not for 3 hours.
Well, the overtime. This is why I'm raising the question. The overtime hours are three hours at time and a half, and 3 hours for the
That's
clerical.
total payroll.
Oh, okay. I'm on the wrong one. You're right. This is total payroll.
What other?
At the top.
What
I'm
other
looking at the
payroll
one
is
down
there?
here. I'm looking at this one right here with the overtime hours down here. I'm
Where?
looking at this one. It says 120.
That's okay. That same question
That
for
one.
that one. That one's 13,000
But this
for
one,
payroll.
for 3
46 and a half hours. Is
For
that
46 and a half hours.
correct?
That's total payroll. Total
That's-
payroll for the DPS. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that total payroll for the overtime?
No, I'm asking.
Hours.
Okay. That's the total payroll for the overtime
Overtime
hours.
hours.
So for 3 hours,
And total payroll.
it's not what you're saying. That's what I'm asking. That's why I asked. So
needs to be
that
separated
11,000 is, we don't have a
We need to
figure
separate
for
it
the
out.
overtime.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What were the 46 hours? I mean,
Snow.
It was mostly snow removal.
that was before snow.
No.
Yes.
Not all of it, no. There was overtime
This-
also, there's
Yeah, okay.
overtime
Go
also for them working on Saturdays for water main breaks. I'd have to pull out all the sheets for their
Are
overtime to
we
show
doing
you.
water main breaks now?
We still have to be on site when we're doing them, yes.
Okay. All right.
So, I guess raising the question, are you asking Jim to separate out what the dollar amount was for overtime?
Well, yeah, I think it's important that we be able to see what our employee expenses are. This doesn't really tell me anything. I mean, the idea of one number for everything doesn't
All right,
give me
so
any
we'll start
kind of
separating it
breakdown.
out.
And I was wondering, I mean, when I read this over the first time, I see like 46 hours, $13,000 seemed like a lot, and certainly 3 for 11,000 seemed like a lot. That isn't what it is, and that, thank you for, but, yeah, that's, I mean, we really don't get to see the cost of the employees. I mean, we don't get that in our budget thing. We just see expenses. We don't really see the breakdown of what the employees are being paid. And
Okay, so what do you want to see on this sheet? Exactly.
I want to see the breakdown
Of the overtime
of
versus
the
the
overtime,
regular?
and yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
On that point, the way I read it, Jim, the way I've always read it is that's a payroll period.
Well, that's what
And,
that's
um,
what I was
See what you pay in
questioning.
overtime now.
Yeah, and on
Is
the
it-
question of the water main
Just separate
breaks,
out? Yeah.
over the years, I've discussed this especially when we went to contracting out most of the repairs. I certainly was aware, maybe this is something we should discuss, I certainly was aware that when we have a water main break, we have a representative there. They keep tally, in my opinion, on what hours are spent by the
Yeah.
contractor, what materials are used. Most generally, it's my understanding that we have to provide saddles and repair parts, and we have them in stock. So that we're there along with the contractor, but the contractor does the majority of the equipment use and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think in the next year, certainly, and you probably already have this, some kind of analysis of what we've been paying Compo.
I do.
Not just numbers, but an analysis of what it is. And I think that's something we'd like to see in the future. Not necessarily at a meeting, but we'd like to see it.
I'm just trying to understand what you mean by analysis. Do you mean like
Well,
per dig
Well,
and
what's
the
it-
hours
since-
and where it was?
Since we've had Compo do it, have we had any analysis of what it would cost us to do it versus what it's costing us to have him do it? Or having Compo do it?
You mean like a running total? So if
Well,
we spent
no.
$100 for Campo in January, and then $100 in February, and I know the numbers are much more than that, but then we'd have the individual month, and then we'd have the running totals? So you
Well,
had some kind of
I mean, also just how much we are paying him, yes,
Okay.
something like that, but also some type of analysis of what it would cost us to do this work as we were before versus what's it costing us to have Compo do it. I mean,
Yeah, that's something we could do in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, and as I say, it's just something I would hope we've been doing.
I already have in my head that it would, that this is probably more efficient.
And that'd be nice.
In my work experience, my regular job, I've experienced several of our clients, smaller communities in particular, when they've had to reduce staff, they couldn't do them anymore.
Well, and that's, yeah,
Didn't have the
and that
manpower, so
obviously,
they've gone to
I don't know that we
contractors.
could do it with
We can't do it with just two.
two people,
Yeah.
but, could we do it and what would it cost? Anyway, moving on. Again, just clarification on the next page.
That's 6.
That's page 6. We have CE Rains. And actually, it's, if you, page 6 and page 8, it seems like the list for Rains is the same on both, but different checks cut. But, I mean, I just want to know, let's see, it's 6, so approximately, it's costing us $3,500 for Rains for countertops.
Okay, which page are you
Wastewater-
on? Are you
okay.
on 8 now?
6 or 8,
6 or 8?
6 or 8 doesn't
Okay,
matter.
on number 8, on page 8,
Yeah.
the countertops and everything, it's just not countertops. You have,
Is that our, what is that?
all of these charges
No,
on page 8 for
No.
Rains?
not all the charges, countertops.
No, countertops right here is $605.
And it's $2,900 on the page before for countertops.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So they're coming out of different funds, is what you're saying. So
No,
on page
I'm
4
asking.
for CE Rains, no, page 6.
Pardon me?
Page 6 is at CE Rains at the top.
down near the bottom, there's a list, countertop light,
Hang on.
roof railing.
Okay, 2,900, okay, so this one is all part of capital outlay. Okay, so that's from 1/9, and page 8 is
Well, and what I'm asking is,
two different invoices. Let's see.
what, is this for them, like,
12418.
looking over the installation of it? Or,
This is their contract.
No, that was prepared, Jim, I
Operations, they
inquired about that
prepared-
yesterday.
okay.
Can I-
Yeah.
I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I
fine.
inquired about that yesterday, and I went over these with Brenda,
Right.
and I talked to Sohail about it, and I was at the plant today. That's for preparing all the bids, measuring it
Right.
up, preparing the bid specs, doing the
And the
advertisement,
drawings and everything,
and
yeah.
doing the bid tabulation, and doing the background check on the bidders, so,
Okay, following that line of thought, would that be the same for the roof railing?
yes.
Yeah, yes. That would also be
Wow.
for the roof, yeah, all of these, we charge out to all the
Well-
same line items, but they're done by, different invoices.
just-
Part of it's contract operations.
Yep.
Preparation of the bids, so on and so forth, so, I mean,
Well-
this is the normal operations that we do.
I understand that.
Okay.
I just wondered about, I'm looking at the amounts, and I'm surprised at the amounts
Oh,
compared to what the job cost.
Okay. Well,
Is anybody looking at that besides me?
Well, as I said, I inquired about it yesterday.
Did you, what about the roof railing? What do you think of that?
Well, sometimes a small job, I went out there on the roof today with Joe, and we looked at where the railings were gonna go, and what the two proposals meant, one versus the other, and the specifications that were put together, so, sometimes these smaller jobs have a higher
I guess.
percentage.
Yeah.
And,
This is almost 25%.
It's not something that people normally do. Now, if we had, the staff was doing it, I don't know how much time they would have to devote to something like this, but again, these figures, as I understand it, include all the bidding, the advertisement in the newspaper, analyzing the competitive bids and all that. So when you
Okay.
have consultants do this, Jim, it costs money.
Yeah, evidently.
If you have $1 million job, the percentage is minimal at that point. But a smaller job, percentage is high. We just seem to be, we've got the lab work that's going on, the replacement of the lab parts, we had the lighting situation, we got the railing, we got the elevator, those are all oddball jobs.
Yeah, and I mean, they're all listed in there.
I had all those enumerated too.
Okay,
I
so
was reading.
you've looked into it, I'm satisfied. I'm done. Thank you.
Those are good questions. And anyway, it is what it is. Are there other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, we have a motion on the floor, correct? Or don't?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And I had the...
For approval. Are there other questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And the vouchers are approved. Next item on the agenda, we have the review of the revenues and expenses. Are there any questions? I also took a look at this, and we should be running close to 3/4 of the fiscal year, and for the most part, we are there. One thing I did notice, it seems to me that, Jim, actually, through half the year, or 3/4 of the year, our water main repair was really down. If you look at page 15, I underlined that in particular because it shows that we're only spent 15% of our $150,000. But then, of course, the cold weather came, and in January, I think we've had 9 water main breaks.
Yeah, we're working on number 9 tomorrow.
So that's what you get in colder weather. So I think we'll see how we get through the winter. Last year, didn't we have 30?
32.
I think we spent close to, if I remember, $200,000.
Yep, close to it.
So some mains are, as Les would tell you, some are shallower than others to fix. So anyway, that's the one thing I picked out of this. Any other comments? If not, we'll receive and file it. Next, we have the treasurer's report. I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report for January 2015.
Are there any questions? Ted, I have, I guess I talked to our finance director yesterday, and the amount of money that was posted at 130 in the road fund, now that's when you prepared the report.
Yep.
What is the amount now? It's about, all right, so it should be really $300,000 and something, right?
We should add about another 220 on, so.
And I only bring that up because when we do look at the road budget,
Right.
the road budget's also going to show, we're going to spend about $500,000. The road budget's been prepared and because of our chip seal program, and we'll collect, next December, we'll collect taxes as well in the fiscal year. We'll begin, right. So we'll have the money that's not yet deposited show up. It'll take us to over $300,000. And then when the next tax period, which will be in the fiscal year, this upcoming fiscal year, we'll have another 200-some thousand added to that, right?
That'd be about this time.
If I explain that, what I'm thinking. So we'll actually have about $500,000.
Yep.
So my point is, I'm always trying to tie back in the treasurer's report, the cash balance to what our budget is. Maybe that's an awkward way to look at it, I don't know. So we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Are there any, if there are no questions, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's approved. Next, we're on to the manager's report. Lorinda?
Okay, update on the pressure-reducing valves. As you know, last October, we shut down the transmission line at the north end of the island in October. And once construction got underway, we found out that, well, let's back up. The original cost for everything was $227,000 and $227,380. After the bids were submitted, we found out from the bridge company that they required a $20 million policy because we are actually doing work on their property. So once that we found out how much that was going to cost, it was almost $19,000. And so there was a change order submitted that Dale signed for. Excuse me. So once construction got underway and they started digging, they found out that the DTE utility pole was in the way. So they have a line item in the contract for $10,000. And so they are meeting on the 16th with DTE to find out where they're going to relocate it. So hopefully, once that's taken place, they'll be able to finish the project and be able to possibly wrap this thing up in early March.
Now, I want to explain something. I talked to Sahil about this yesterday on the utility pole. I wasn't aware of that either. But apparently what happened is the thought was that they could work around it.
Yeah.
When they started to excavate the hole adjacent to it, the pole started to tilt. The ground wasn't substantial enough to, I don't know what kind of soil it was, but it wasn't substantial enough that the pole was going to move, so they had to stop their operation. So supposedly DTE said that they're going to get in there by the end of this month and move it, relocate it. Good luck with that. And that the project would be done by April 1st. I mean, DTE, when you have these things happen on a construction job, they don't always just jump right over. You know? So hopefully they will. So.
Well, we ran into that problem with the sidewalks on Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Away. I think it was a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to add what happened.
Okay.
On the insurance, the insurance premium, that was insurance for a year?
That was insurance on the job. You know
On the
what?
job.
Was that on a whole year? I think it was just for the job. Yeah.
itself. I'm not sure
That
there's a
premium-
time.
But they don't know how
on the
long the
job.
job is.
Yeah, we have to check on the time frame. I'm not sure if there's a time frame related
Yeah, I
to
don't
it,
know
or
if
is it
there was a
just a
time
I
job.
frame.
believe it was job-specific, Joe.
Is it?
Was
does
it?
Okay.
Job. Okay. I did not know
That was my conversation anyway.
Yeah.
So who's got the deck sheet for that insurance policy?
The deck sheet.
Yeah. If a policy is issued, there'll be a deck sheet. If the policy wasn't issued, there
I
won't
wonder
be.
if Rains has.
So that's kind of an internal audit
Okay.
necessity.
No, I think Rains might have that. I'll have to check with him.
I think the township manager was involved in that, too.
Well, yeah, he was, yeah, but I'll
So
check
you're
with
talking
Kyle.
about the
Declarations page says this is the insurance coverage for this particular endeavor. And if you don't have a deck sheet,
so is that otherwise called a policy?
well, no, a
Well,
little
that's a
different. The deck
declaration.
sheet is one page, you can read it over in a hurry. The policy's longer. You can print a policy from a computer as a blank policy. But the deck sheet says the township is covered for this amount, and it might even have the cost in there, but it says who's insured, the duration, if it's job specific. It's a very important key element. It's usually one page. You could have a $25 million project. The deck sheet's usually one page. Tells you who the carrier is, who the
All
insureds
right, I'll
are.
check on that.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I would ask you later this week to send an email
I'll send
out to
an
the
email
commission
out with
and
it,
tell us
yeah.
who's got the declaration sheet.
And then you should furnish a copy to the commission for like the next meeting. That's not a problem. Then we can all have one in our packet.
Well, why do we need one?
I'd like to read it.
Furnish
Can
one
I
to,
scan it
furnish
you?
one to
Can I
John
get
Riley.
it? Can I scan it to you?
No,
Would that
just
be-
bring it to the next meeting. I don't need to look at it ahead of time. But if somebody has a deck sheet and it applies to that job, it's not a big deal. It's one page. If we can't come up with a deck sheet, the
John?
paperwork's not completed. That's what
When
it
this
is.
issue arose before the holidays, I spoke with both the township attorney and the township manager about it. I think, Jim, were you in some conversation on that?
I believe so.
Yeah. And they were trying to get the premium reduced. If you want to see the deck sheet,
It won't
send it
cost
to them
any more.
send it to them ahead of time. If you have any questions, you can go back to the township manager.
No, it won't cost any more, but if we don't have the deck sheet, then there's a hole in the system someplace. It's got to be shored up.
We should certainly, if we
I mean, that's
pay,
due diligence.
I'm sure.
If we're paying 19 grand and we can't find a deck sheet, that's a problem. It's just the deck sheet.
you're hypothesizing we don't have it. We don't
No.
know that we don't have
I'm
it.
saying every policy is going to have a declarations page.
All right.
That's the only one you want. You don't want to look at the 20 pages of insurance policy language. You want the declarations page.
Okay.
Might be 2 pages, but usually just one.
Okay.
And that policy's for 20 million?
Yes,
And to clarify, that was at the insistence of the
the
bridge.
bridge company.
Bridge company. And I think they tried to negotiate that too.
Seems like a lot, but we don't have a choice. It's their property.
They tried to negotiate it down. Ted, were you involved in that at all?
I was not. I
Yeah,
was not.
I was told that's blanket what they require of anybody, and that's just the way it was. You
That's
know,
what the
they're-
bridge always requires?
Yep.
That's what they
Yep.
said, yeah.
Okay.
All right, can we have an update on the United Water contract? I know we have a committee, John Riley, your chairman, Jim Budney's been on it, Jim Nelson, and Lorinda. Who wants to give us an update?
Why don't I? I'm happy to report that I believe by tomorrow we will have a verbal agreement with everything ironed out on that, and then by our next meeting we will have the written contract. We had a meeting yesterday. We found, in reviewing this, we found some language. Surprisingly, dollars and cents weren't the problems that have been holding it up. It's some more liability and things of that nature within the contract that held it up. And we have what I believe both parties can agree to. And we should take care of that by tomorrow. And then it's just getting the written. And so we will have it for our next meeting.
It'll be on the March meeting.
Yes.
You okay with that, John?
Oh, sure.
And Jim? You're okay? Thank you. So we should all be able to have a copy of it to look at the whole contract. Will you highlight the changes that have been made in it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, that would help our review of it, just so we all talking from the same page. With that, anything else on that? With that, I just want to say that I ask this be placed on everybody's seat. There's an organization called the Michigan Water Environmental Association, and Joe Keefe, who's here, Joe, come up to the podium, who heads up the operation of our wastewater treatment plant. We received an award from the Michigan Water Environment Association for Health and Safety Award for small municipal wastewater treatment plants. The award is given in recognition to commitment to health, safety in small municipal wastewater treatment plant operations. The award will be presented in June at a luncheon. So, Joe, I want to congratulate you on that. It's nice to get an award on safety. So I know at the plant, we've all been through the plant, there's a lot of opportunity to get injured there with all the pumps and all the equipment that's in your way, that's necessary. But anything to say about it, Joe?
No, we've actually won this, I think, in 2009. But we have a really strong safety program. I mean, it's just industry leading, and they just constantly, we have it pounded into our heads, safety, everything's safety. Bill, you saw the salt around, you were worried about slipping, when we stepped out on the roof. But on the ground, you didn't have to, everything was salted. I mean, we just make sure there's no ice to slip on. Every moving part that, even in small little places has a guard. We have training. Probably every employee goes through 40 hours a year of safety training alone. So it's, pretty impressive program.
At the plant, there's a lot of machinery and equipment. There's a lot of, how do I describe it, areas where you can fall into water that you wouldn't want to swim in. And there's a lot of moving equipment, and you handle a lot of chemicals. Mm-hmm. So all in all, those are important items. So so I want to congratulate you on that. I know we all do. The one thing that I was impressed with today, we took the elevator down, the new elevator shaft, so that was good, and into the bottom level where the intake comes in, the water comes in. And the new lights are fabulous. I mean, that's just like night and day from what you've got. And as Joey pointed out, and some of the things that are in his capital program this year, now we can see the corrosion on some of the, I don't want to say plastic pipe, the conduit that's wrapped in tape and so forth. And some of that repair is now in the proposed budget for next year. So we did that, and that's an area where you've got to be careful walking around. It's a huge area, and there's a lot of water, a lot of water holding tanks. And then we went up the elevator shaft to the top. We went up the spiral staircase, which I've never been up before, and saw the new equipment in the elevator that they put in, all the new replacement motors for the elevator. And then right off that is the outdoor where you can walk on the roof where all the fans are, and the other equipment that's on the rooftop where we're going to install the railing. So I can truly appreciate the safety hazards that are at the plant. So are there any questions on this?
I'd just like to say, Joe, I mentioned this last night at the board meeting, and on behalf of the board, I wanted to thank you also.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, you'll be back, I know. I also want to comment at this time. I was out of town when the snowstorm hit, and Lorinda and John Keim, John's not here tonight, we got our new truck, and we're not going to use it on every snow, but when the snow's emergency occurs that the fire chief declared, it's my understanding, and I was surprised at the volume of snow. All our roads are passable. I would dare say if we were waiting for Wayne County, our local roads would be a mess. So I want to congratulate the DPS staff for getting out there, and roads are in good shape, so.
Yeah, not only the local roads, the main roads too. County was far and few between.
They were far and few between.
You didn't see very many county trucks out here during that snow.
Oh, so they didn't respond well?
No.
Well, they responded the next day. They weren't, you didn't see them on Sunday when the main snow, when it was, and whether they were responding someplace else or whether they were just waiting for it to stop. But, yeah, Sunday there wasn't, I don't believe any county trucks, or if they were, very few.
That's
But-
right, I'm reminded, that was Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Sunday night, late, I saw some county trucks on Meridian, late.
Okay. Well, anyway, the roads look good now. I didn't know they didn't respond very promptly. I suppose you got to watch this, Lorinda. If it's a school day, they got to get the routes cleared. I know that's the biggest snow we've had this year, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, compliments to our DPS. Any other comments on that from anybody? Okay, moving along the agenda, discussion items. Want me to take the first one? I had a call, a personal call from the chairman of the Bike Path Committee, Brian Pollock. And Brian and I talked, and he's involved with SEMCOG. He works for SEMCOG, and he's into various modes of transportation planning. And Brian is quite a knowledgeable and resourceful individual. He said, I know that you're working on a major road improvement program. What he proposed is their commission would like to have a joint meeting with us to just talk about what our road plans are and how we can maybe integrate some of the things they'd like into the road plan. And my first response to him is, well, we don't have any money other than for roads, and we don't. But we both agreed that it would still be advisable to talk. So, and who knows, maybe they can be of some help to us, because we're going to talk about roads a little later. So what my proposal is that we, at our April meeting, we invite them to come in for an hour and talk about our road plan, and I even had the thought maybe we should meet early that night, like 6 o'clock or something, or maybe just start our meeting off and meet with them for the first hour.
I would just suggest that we do like a study session with them before, rather than have them as part of our meeting.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, and I can't think of the program that passed last year we voted on, and I believe this is,
Shared Streets Initiative.
that's what it was. Thank you, Ted.
What is it called, Ted?
Shared
Shared
Streets.
Initiative.
Shared Streets.
And it's to look at the non-motorized traffic on routes as well as the motorized traffic. So that they are supposed, they are supposed to have the input of looking at it and making suggestions. They, as I recall, they have no authority to make us do anything. But
So would you be, is that called the complete streets?
no,
It's something different than that,
It's-
eh?
Something different.
yeah,
It's Shared Streets. It's an initiative, safety initiative, state of Michigan.
All right,
Actually, I think it's federal.
okay.
I think that's where it starts out. Yeah,
And I think it's
works
part of
its
that
way
complete
through.
street program is incorporated in that.
Oh, okay. Is there, okay, so let me throw out an idea, based on what you're suggesting, Jim. What if we started our meeting at 7:30 and invited them in at 6:30? Would that work for people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine with me.
Instead of 6, I mean, 6 people are still getting home from work. So what if we said 6:30, have a joint session for an hour with them, and then we meet at,
That's fine. That's fine.
so we'll send an invitation out to them now. Now, if you think better of it, that we should do it in May, I guess it doesn't matter. Would you rather do it in May with them? we might have a better handle on where we're heading with streets.
Yeah, we, how much, I was just going to say, we have to review what we're doing on our projects, and we should know so we can, have a good discussion with them.
Oh, you know what? You know why we avoided May?
Yeah.
I just remembered, I think there's a problem. Mr. Pollock has a problem, and he wants to be there. We could put it off till June, maybe.
I'd be all for that.
So
I mean, that's my opinion.
Let's say our first choice would be June, and I'll call them. Our first choice would be June, our second choice would be April.
Okay.
May won't work, I know that. They have a conflict. So, and we're gonna send a letter. So June 1st, and April would be 2nd, okay? All right?
Okay.
Next item is agenda format, moving up the public comment and action items.
And I'll just jump in on this because I brought it up at the last meeting based on comments that had come my way. And what I asked is for the commission to think about this and bring their comments back to this meeting and see what they thought about changing the format of the agenda, possibly, moving actions items up to the front of the meeting and the other things down, or whatever else they thought of, they might think. So that's why it's on here for the commission's comment.
I'm in favor of that.
Me too.
And that's pretty much the way the township board meetings used to be a while back. You'd have the action items first. The idea would be the concentration is best at the beginning of the meeting, and then it dwindles as we go. And here we have the actions are at the end.
Jim? Nelson?
That's okay with me.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of it. In fact, when we have people in the audience, if you notice, over the years, I've generally let people speak rather than have to sit around.
Right, yeah.
So let's just...
Let's move those two things up.
Seems to be unanimous. So...
Public comment first and then action items, or vice versa?
No, fact is, on public comment, I wouldn't, generally we let people speak on any item. I mean, we don't have that many items if they want to. So I would say up front, and we'll just leave it at that. But where would we put it up front? Right after approval of the agenda, or after we go through?
You put it after treasurer's report. The first 8 items go in about 5 to 7 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so the 9th item would then become public comment.
Yep. Then if there's nobody there like tonight, then we go to the next item.
And the 10th item would become action items.
Action items.
All right. So we're going to change the proposal is, and I'd like to have a motion to change our format of our meeting minutes so that the 9th item would appear to be public comment, 10th item would be action items to be followed by manager's report and discussion items.
I'll make a motion that we change it like that.
I'll support.
Moved and supported that we revise our agenda format consistent with what we've just outlined. Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Item number 3 is the wastewater treatment plant computerized maintenance management system. Lorinda and Joe.
Okay, I'll give you a little...
I just want to call everybody's attention. First, I need to mention, we have a report that starts on page 58 of our packet, and I don't know if you've seen the report that's contained with us, including your letter of all right, your letter of recommendation.
This is our action item number 4, correct? Action item number 4.
Yeah. So I guess the agenda was set up so he could explain it first?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. The history of this is in 1998 or 99, we bought, the company at that time was Data Stream's MP2 computerized maintenance management system. And we've run it, and I'm still running it on a half-alive Microsoft XP computer that I have to turn in. But Microsoft 7, it's not supported on, it's time to upgrade the software to work on the operating systems that are now being supported by Microsoft. So it's a good program. As most of these programs go, they have a lot of bells and whistles that I don't utilize all of it. You know, we're a small plant and we're all kind of busy. But it supplies those reports that are in the monthly report that you get, you used to get, Bill gets, and Lorinda gets. Those pretty detailed reports on every maintenance order that we work on are in there. And it's going to be required as part of the asset management program that's going to be where we're going to have to supply a report every year to the DEQ once we get our new permit. This is all coming out in the new permits. Ours is just kind of hung up because of the administrative consent order, and our proposal, we kind of baffled the DEQ a little bit with how we want to handle the high flows. But my recommendation is to go with the program we've been using. It's the most costly upfront cost. The other two, well, the one we looked at it, we don't even want to consider it because it might not even meet that asset management requirement. The other one is it's a cloud-based system. It's a subscription service. These things all came out probably the early 2000s. And there's getting to be quite a few of them. It's actually a fairly crowded market, it looks like. But I did go through that ER portal. I had our maintenance services group guy come out and go through it with me. You know, I got to take a tour on his computer of its capabilities. It would be a fine program. It would just be kind of there'd be a steeper learning curve, and converting the data from, which is actually a Microsoft Access database. Right now it's all on a Microsoft Access database. There's a conversion cost. I think it's listed in there. And whereas with the MP2, the conversion is part of the license agreement. So.
And then that's an annual fee, right, that one?
No, the annual fee is there if you wanted the service, and this is not what I've never used the support, and it's at $1,300. You have to get it for the first year. I think you see the.
Okay, that was going to be my other question. You have to get it for the first year.
You have to get it for the first year. It's part of the license.
All right.
But then you just drop it. And I never, in 16, 17 years, called for support. It's that the program's that maneuverable for most folks that, with a little bit of computer skills.
Do we only have one person running this program?
Typically, it's me. Yes.
Do we have a backup person?
Actually, I'm working on that. Yes.
Okay.
You met him today. Jason is pretty technically savvy, and he's good kid. So, well, he's not even a kid really. But he's a good employee.
But to you, he is a kid.
Yeah. Joe, you're a kid to me. So.
But anyway.
All right, so you got the letter outlines the three plans. As I look at them, the one that you say may not even meet the qualifications, actually, if you add it all up, it's the most expensive program. That's the second option I'm referring to. By about $600, it's more expensive. The first one, by the time you had the support for the year, it's $8,394. And then the last one, as I looked at it, was $1,720, but you have to pay the $720 every year beyond
Subscription fee.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is going to last you 6 or 8 years, isn't it? 10 years?
Oh, I would say 10 years.
So they're all comparatively similar in price then.
Yeah.
Now, the technology, you're getting, when you start talking about this cloud stuff, you're getting beyond Bill here. So, I'm in a cloud on that, but at any rate, let's open it up to questions. And if we want to, we could, there's nobody in the audience, we could informally just take action on this tonight. This is in the budget, the replacement of this?
Do we have maintenance money?
Yeah, it was under maintenance.
Yeah. It was, when we put the budget together last year, this came up after XP stopped being supported. That was when
All right,
I
it could
got the
fit
new
under
computer
maintenance.
and it would
Joe,
not
it
install.
could fit under the maintenance line item. You haven't spent it.
It was April of last year.
All right. All right, let's open up to questions from the board. Questions?
You're happy with the one that we currently have?
Yes.
John? Les? Ted, any questions?
No.
Jim?
No, reading everything over, I thought it was self-explanatory, and
When
I'm pleased if you're pleased.
I asked Joe about it today. One thing that didn't come clear when he talks about it, he used United Water's portal. Apparently at their headquarters, they analyze these different programs, and you said that there were 5 that were analyzed by your corporation, and that of the 5, only 3 would be applicable to our situation.
Right. The other 2 are really way massive.
For big plants.
Yeah.
So at any rate, there's been research done beyond just what Joe's done here. So if there are no questions, should we make a decision tonight to take action on this?
Well, it
Or
is
come
one
back.
of our action items.
Right. Do you want to do it now is what I'm saying,
Oh,
since we have Joe in front of us on this.
Well, sure.
might as well.
So the same issues and explanation apply to item 4 under action items. I guess I'd entertain a motion to move forward with the purchase from MP2, the existing computerized maintenance management system and replacement of it for total cost, including the first year support, of $8,394.
Support?
No. Are you making the motion, Bill?
No, I read it.
Oh, you
Jimmy-
you were
Jim made
reading.
the motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right. Is there any further discussion? John Riley supported it. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. All right. Okay. Item number 4. You want me to take this?
Sure.
Tonight, you were all provided a letter from Terry Spryzik, the Director of DPS for Wayne County. We actually, we met with Wayne County, and Ted, you were there? In December 3rd, Jim Budney was there.
I was there.
I was there, Lorinda, the township manager, our engineer. And we met with the engineers from Wayne County and this Mr. Terry Spryzik, who's continuing on to be Director of Public Services for Wayne County. And I guess it's appropriate to, I'm not going to read the whole letter, but we were promised that we'd have the letter before Christmas. We didn't get it. We were promised that we called, that we'd have it in early January, and then about 1st of February, Mr. Ream again contacted Mr. Spryzik and asked that he be provided a letter so he could give it to the township board last night. And I don't know that it would have the same impact or meaning to the township board as a whole as it will to us, but basically they said, and this letter says, number 1, we like your plan, your long-term plan. We compliment the township for moving forward with developing a plan because we don't have any money. And then they said, there were 3 or 4 projects, Meridian Road, even though it's on their needs list, East River Road, West River Road, Ferry Road, Church Road, that we could expect no federal funding, that will never move up the list. So we talked specifically about the fact that, well, Meridian is already on your needs list, And in 2013, it was listed as the number 74th project. They have a 200 project needs list, and I guess you could just assume that each project is about a mile in length. That's how they list them. This particular project of ours, Meridian, is actually 1.75 miles. Some of theirs are only a half mile, but basically the average is about a mile. So they have a needs list of 200 projects. They can do about 15 a year. But between 2013, and you heard me say this before, in 2014, we moved from 74th to 72nd place. And what they said to us essentially is, you will never qualify for federal funding because of your traffic volumes, your low accident rates, and lack of congestion. Now that was very disheartening. And I really, frankly, that's what essentially the letter says. I'm not going to give up on that. I mean, for now, we'll just accept that, but we got to move forward. And here's kind of my thought, and you can all jump in on this. In May, there's an election. We're going to see this 1% sales tax. I don't know if that's going to pass or not. There's a lot of skepticism it won't. So if it does, boy, the MDOT's going to have twice as much money as they've always had. I assume the cities and county road commissions are all going to get almost double their money. If it doesn't pass, we're nowhere. So it's anybody's guess. My guess is it's going to be a hard road to pass it. But then it's back to the legislature. What are they going to do? Well, they got to do something. And in my mind, if the May issue fails, and if the legislature, I guess, would step up to the plate and do something, maybe they increase revenue 50% of what this May proposal would do, which would mean the county, who gets about $54 million a year for roads, would get maybe $20 million more or $25 million more. Who knows? But if we got to track that, we got to track that, right? My point is, and if they do, then we need to go after some of their new money. There's no more federal money. Looks at the federal level, there's not going to be. Now, even the president has proposed in his budget, I've been following this, to double the annual amount of what they call the federal trust fund, the transportation trust fund. So they get about 30 to 40 billion a year at the federal level for the interstate system to be maintained and for all the other state designated highways. On our island, Meridian Road, Grosse Ile Parkway, and East River, parts of East River, are eligible for federal funding at 80% grant money, but we're never going to qualify when we compete or compare our needs with high volume traffic roads like Ford Road or Jefferson or Fort Street or and so forth. So if all this makes sense, but if something happens where the state gets more money, we got to track it and we got to go after some of it. That's my point. It's going to be difficult, but we got to. So it's going to cause us, what it does to our long-range plan that we've put together right now, it means that we're $3 million short of what we want to accomplish in it, because we had $3 million of funding in that program, expecting that if we were going to move forward and improve the roads in our township that are owned by the county, that we would hopefully hope that they would step up with federal funding, at least get us on the list. So we don't even qualify, except for Meridian, to get on the list with traffic volumes. East River doesn't even qualify to get on the list. So at any rate, that's kind of a hodgepodge explanation.
It's really interesting from the standpoint of constitutional fundamental fairness and due process, because the way the formulas are established and have been for a long time, and government doesn't get very creative ever. So somebody had a formula a long time ago, and they just stick with it. Because we're an island, we can never have a concourse situation like Trenton does, or any other city. I don't know if there's another island in Wayne County. There's a peninsula that's their park across the river. But we don't have a community that fits within that formula. And if that's true, then the very nature of their formula denies us equal protection and due process under the law, because what they've done is they've eliminated our participation from the get-go, no matter what. That's a problem, philosophically and perhaps legally. The other thing is, it's my belief that the narrow portions of some roads, when abutted by deep water, probably present a nuisance or potential nuisance, and that gives me another problem from that regard. If you were in the city of Trenton, driving down that appalling northbound lanes of Jefferson, and you slid to the right, you would merely go onto the soft shoulder of the road. If you're driving northbound on East River Road and you slide to the right, you may be headed more toward Canada than you want to be. And with that in mind, if the county has, through nonfeasance and through constitutionally prohibited formulas, created a nuisance for the travelers on Grosse Ile, that's a pretty sad situation, and those are my comments.
Yeah. Well, those are good comments, John. And my only point at this point is we can't give up trying to get county money. That's my point. And I think we have to rework our figures and particularly look at what we're going to spend on each road and maybe reduce some of those things so we can still move forward.
I agree. I mean, we not only have to stay on their back, if you will, but we certainly don't want to give up on our thought that we're going to do something. Something has to be done with our roads, and we have to move ahead, maybe on a smaller scale than what we initially planned, but we have to move ahead and do something. I did see within the letter, and it's worth mentioning and worth remembering, they do say that as far as our plan, they will move or will waive permit fees. So they're going to throw us some bone, and that's fine. We'll take everything we can get.
All right. Ted, you've been at this a long time. Any comments?
Ted, is this going as you thought it would?
Probably. I told you so it'd be good, but I hate to get off on that track, but the reality is that I think John's right. I think there is some malfeasance. I think we are being singled out simply by location. We need to look for every avenue that we can. My only hope going forward is any of this federal funding that if there's other communities that are a little more financially strapped than we are and cannot afford to participate in some of these programs, and we need to be standing at that door because we would have some funds available to do that. But you're right. I don't even think you're good from East River, from Grow to Manchester. I don't think you're going to be able to drive it in the spring. It's almost unpassable now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because talking about between Grow and Manchester, I drove it Sunday just looking at the roads we were going to chip seal. And you have a revised budget here, and I'll explain that. We have to address that.
No, I know. I don't think.
Chip seal over it the way it is.
I don't think we'll be able to chip seal it the way it's literally falling apart right now.
Especially the southbound lane.
And if you want to borrow my Jeep and have a real good ride, go ahead. You'd be pulling your head off the ceiling most of the time.
Well, just one final comment on this. What happened is when all this federal money, you know, I'm an old timer, been around a long time, and was involved in all this, the more recent federal programs came about where they provided the grants to the metropolitan areas, the urban areas. And we're in the Detroit metropolitan area, and SEMCOG is our convener for that. And each area, SEMCOG or the Lansing area or the Flint area, they formed what was called a Federal Aid Committee. And communities, not townships, but cities and the counties and MDOT have a right to participate in each Federal Aid Committee. And they each put together some criteria And in Oakland County, for example, it's really a risk management. The higher accident problems, that's what gets the attention. But there is criteria that all the communities came together that are entitled to receive these funds, and technically our roads are county roads. So they put the criteria together, and what they're saying is based on the criteria, and they do mention the WCFAC is the Wayne County Federal Aid Committee, which is composed of all these agencies that do receive Act 51 dollars or highway gas dollars. They put the criteria together, and what they're saying is Meridian that's eligible is never going to move on the list. If we want to get East River, we got to at least get it on the list. If one of these things happens where they have, communities can't match the grant that they were supposed to get, and no one else can, I'd like to be standing in line too. But we got to. So I guess you could say we need to have Meridian is on the list. We need to get East River on the list. West River will never qualify, so it'll never get on the list. But it seems to me East River is we should have a shot at that. So anyway, that's the story for tonight. We'll continue. The saga will continue.
Sure of that.
Mr. Loftus and I attended a SEMCOG meeting this morning with Warren Evans, and basically he's saying the county is broke. He said, but now's his time to listen. So he's eager to listen. He seemed like he was willing to, call them up, and if we got these concerns that we feel that we're not being treated properly, he made it well aware that he's welcoming any suggestions or comments, or so it's get to him early and often before everyone else does. So it may be worth a phone call with Brian or whatever.
All right, well, just so you all know, I have been talking with Sohail about some of our cost figures we use. We were conservative, to be safe. We reworked some of them, and I'm going to present in April a revised section for our street plan of what we might do. And part of that would be to convert a couple areas that we were going to repave to chip seal. And one of them is from a meridian from Bridge coming towards Horse Mill, but not quite to Horse Mill. And another one is a section of East River that's not really bad, from Manchester to Parkway. It's not as bad as the other sections. So at any rate, we have our chip seal to look forward to still. So anyway, okay, any more on that? Thank you for listening. Action items. Lorenda? Now we're looking at page 55, is that right? No, I'm sorry.
Page 19.
Page 19, yep.
Yep. Okay, this is a carry. Last month we took no action on it, so this is just a carryover. This is regarding the wastewater treatment plant roof safety railings. This is a recommendation to the Township Board. Do you want me to read the motion, or does somebody else want to read the motion to start with?
I'll read the motion.
Okay.
Motion based on the recommendation of the Charles E. Raines Company, motion to recommend to the Township Board to award the bid for installation of the roof safety railings located at the Groseal Wastewater Treatment Plant to American Fence and Supply Company, lowest bidder, in the amount of $31,169.37 base bid, or $17,238.89 alternate bid.
Now, you remember at the last meeting...
We need a support.
Well, just, okay, so you have support, but the way this is worded, it says base bid or alternate. Do you want to choose one over the other?
Well, I would.
We can discuss it
yeah.
and then decide.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We need a little more background to discuss it then, and
Well, just ask Joe if the cheaper one does it.
it does.
Yeah, it
That-
does.
There isn't any other discussion, is there?
No.
Well, I think we just need
That
to
would be
address the
easy.
issue that at the last meeting, the suggestion was that Austin Fletcher come to the meeting tonight, who's with
Right.
our engineering firm, to explain the OSHA regulations and so forth. Following that discussion, the bottom line is this. Joe O'Keefe checked in with his company, and they have a safety person that works universally with the company, and said the OSHA regulations are one thing, but also you can get by with a different set of standards if you just put a smaller amount of railing in, but only in the areas where you are walking adjacent to the roof line.
Okay, will the 17,000 do that, Joe?
So they had criteria for that, and so after I learned that, I thought, why bring the engineers here
No
and spend
reason.
money to do
No
that?
reason.
Does that answer everybody's need?
Sure.
So the recommendation that you are making now, Joe, is that the 17,000 be the alternate bid be what we award, not the larger amount.
So why don't we have that action item say lowest bid in the amount of $17,238.89.
Okay.
Okay, is that good with the second?
And Jim
All right.
supported that.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So that's the recommendation.
Okay. That goes to.
Okay. I propose we do the review and recommendation of operating budgets last. Item number 3, let's just take care of that, and then we can talk about budgets the rest of the evening. Item 3 is election of chairman and vice chairman and secretary. We have a rule that each year we got a letter from the township manager secretary that we should take an action to appoint a chair, vice chair, and secretary. And so that's what this issue is all about. So open it up for discussion.
Okay.
I'd like to,
I can see what you're doing. Let me, if I may, Mr. Nelson.
embellish.
Well, and I will. First thing is we have 4 members whose appointments are up at the end of this year. So of those 3 of those people are here today. Bill, John, and Les. I was going to inquire as to whether you were going to re-up with us.
Yes.
John is. Bill.
I think I checked with Carol when I called, and John had called, Les had called.
Yeah, and Phil is the other one.
He had called as well.
So before we nominate anybody, let's find out if they possibly are going to be around.
I think we've all indicated.
Everybody's a yes.
Everybody's a yes? Okay, now, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Bundy, for letting me have the microphone for a second. I've said this numerous times to a lot of people, and you guys all know it, that Bill Kostick is unbelievably good at what he does. And if you'd be so kind as to continue, I would be extremely happy.
Think of-
So I'm going to make a motion that Bill Kostick be the chair for the 2015-16
15, 16. Mm-hmm.
township year, fiscal year.
Support.
Well, I guess you're putting up nominations. Are there other nominations for chair?
Watch how quiet it gets.
I make a motion that nominations be closed.
So,
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Been nominated that the current chair remain as chair. Thank you.
yes.
I'm willing to do that till we get this road thing moving forward.
I would like to
Checks
make
in the
a,
mail, Bill.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Okay, next we have vice chair. John Riley has served in that capacity. Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion that John Riley be the vice chairman of this commission.
Is there support?
Support.
Are there other nominations?
Again, just a question. John, how do you feel about it?
Yes, that's fine.
All right, it's been moved and supported. John Riley, there are no other nominations. Be appointed vice chair. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So, John, you're the vice chair. Continuing. Our secretary has been Phil Kennedy. Phil's not here.
He's elected by the
Only-
Well, Phil, have you had any discussion
Well,
with him about continuing?
I have not, but I don't think he objects to it at all.
I don't think he'll object to it, no.
Well, then I would like to make a motion that Phil Kennedy, I nominate Phil Kennedy as secretary for the DPS Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and supported that Phil Kennedy be nominated as secretary. Are there any other nominations? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. So Phil's the secretary. So the item left on our agenda.
We have
One,
one.
two.
I'm sorry.
We have two.
Got road repairs too.
Well, we have item number 5.
Okay, let's jump to number 5.
Item number 5 was the 2015 road repair program. We have still not, unless you got it today, we have still not received approval of our plan that was submitted for the $500,000 program. Our engineer, Ohio Sabac, has been told verbally that our plan looks fine. They're going to get the letters out of approval at some point. But here's the problem. I know from my firm, concrete prices have gone up at least 10% this year. So Hal has inquired with 2 contractors if they would hold their prices. They will not. So we need to get out for bid. We don't want to bid this in May or June.
Right.
Now, there's a $300 million runway contract going up,
I heard that.
Metro Airport.
and it will probably have more effect than 996 had.
Let's hope not, but it could, Ted. You're
I
right.
think it will.
All right, well, anyway, let's get out to bid as soon as we can.
Right.
Now, my thought is we should, whenever we take bids on these construction projects, they're good for 90 days. I fully expect that by April 1st, we'll receive the bid, the approval. There's nothing to prevent us from going out to bid now and seek bids. I'd like to seek bids in March. So, and the way this resolution is written, and we really didn't have a chance to talk about it. What page am I looking for here?
78.
All right, I got it. I don't believe just going out to bids, since the township board's already approved our plan. We submitted the plan to the township board in October. They approved it and forwarded it to the county. I don't know, and we've got 2 trustees here. I think we could just take an action. I'd like to have this bid by early March and just send that recommendation to our engineers.
I think that's fine. I don't think,
Yep.
I don't
So
think
I
the
don't
bid
need forward to the
process
board?
needs to go back in front of the township board.
No,
No.
they've already approved the project.
Right.
Correct.
Project's been
So-
approved. I think the final commitment, if it doesn't
Oh, sure.
fall within the realm of this thing, is better come back before it.
Well, and if prices go up, we'll just do less quantities. That's all there is to it.
Right.
So, and this is mostly concrete in our neighborhood streets. So I'd entertain a motion to authorize the engineer to seek bids by early March for our local road initiative, Wayne County Local Road Initiative, the projects we submitted for 2015.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
So we have a motion that's been approved to move forward with our local road initiative and to seek bids in early March. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you. Moving forward with that. Okay, next item is a review of our budgets. We have to go through this every year. And Ann Darzniak, our finance director, has willingly come to our meeting tonight. I think we should start with page 29. Is that right, Ann? Yeah. And would you please go through your figures so everybody on page 29? This is a tricky page, so I hope everybody gets to it. It's sort of attempts to summarize where we're at.
Yeah, the thing with the DPW budget, a lot of time was spent by Lorenda and I going through this. I mean, it is the second largest budget in the township. Actually, the DPW is a more complex budget because of the moving parts. General fund is general fund. There's not much going on there. It's pretty straightforward. But with the DPW, obviously there's more integral parts as well as driving revenues, the revenue stream, and capital projects obviously is a big deal when you're dealing with the DPW budget. So the summary page kind of is, if we start up, when we're looking back at usage, because that's going to derive our rates, that's going to derive our revenues.
You're talking about water usage.
Based on water usage. So if you look on the front page, on page 29, you can see since 2010, the water usage has consistently been going down. We've been looking at that, and it's continuing to go in that direction. So what we decided to do in this budget being presented is use 265 million gallons. Feel that that's reasonable. We were going to, last year I think we did a 5-year projection, and actually if we would continue to do the 5-year projection, I think we'd still be overestimating where our revenue usage is. It's kind of stabled out there. I knew we used to have some big water losses. That's kind of stabled out, so the number that we're looking at is the 265 appears to be reasonable with our current rate structure. So what we did is went through all the different parts, and just to summarize, so you can see that the water revenue, when we go through the whole budget, we can go through bits and pieces of it. Right now our rates are pretty much even to our operating cost. There's not a lot of capital improvement, but right now we don't foresee any capital improvement in the next year. And we are taking into account the actual water cost to date from the Detroit Water Board. Currently, we're at about $900,000 with 10 months in. We've got about 2 more months to go. We're estimating about $90,000 for each of those months. And we are, in this budget, we put a 15% increase from the city of Detroit. We're hearing about 14 right now out there, so the 15% seems reasonable at this time.
Now, the way you said that, when we talked yesterday, the 15% increase is what you're expecting from Detroit on
Correct.
price.
On price.
Not recommending a
Correct.
15% increase in rates.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what, so they're,
Yep.
now,
Yep.
I know that Detroit said that with this contract they're talking about with the Great Lakes Water Authority, they're talking about a 4% increase, but now they're talking 14%. You predicted that.
That's
Deb.
amazing, isn't it?
It always seems too good to be true.
I just shocked everybody.
So I just want to be
Yeah,
clear for everybody.
That's cost to us.
Everybody circle
What
that
we're projecting.
15%. That's an
That's our
increase in
cost
cost
to us.
Correct.
from Detroit, not a rate
Not
increase.
in our
Not the rate
rates,
increase,
no.
right. So when we'll look at all the different line items, so right now in the budget that's being presented, there is no rate increase. If we base it on this usage without a lot of capital projects, we can cover the cost.
So we're out of capital money.
We're out of capital right now.
When
There's
the
no
PRV
capital
valve
built.
is finished.
Very minimal capital, and we'll go through here.
What's the shortage figure?
That's where we're at. If you just look at budget, where we're at, we're about $25,000 short, which out of $5 million is basically breaking even with the water rates.
I'm glad you
That's
asked
what
that
they're
question,
currently
Jim,
at.
because
Yep.
you could take a line, and if you're looking at the budget just below the 15%, the $1,242,000, and circle that, that's related to the shortage up above.
Yeah, just
Okay.
And
So
like I said, we'll go.
I think what Ann's saying as we look at the water budgets, if we don't increase rates at all,
We're
and
basically
if our
even.
consumption holds true at the 265 million gallons, and nothing else changes,
That's correct.
no capital improvements, we'd still be short about $25,000.
Correct.
Okay. Continue.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll go through line items and we'll put out anything. As far as the sewer revenue right now, based on the same consumption, obviously, we're about an $80,000 to the good. And because of that, there is a reduction in capital improvement within the wastewater treatment plant, and we can go through that. That accounts for that. And as far as refuse, when we redid the rates several years ago, we pretty much wanted that to break even. Our refuse cost equals our refuse expense, and there's an overage of about $75,000. And right now, we could relook at that, but we're kind of waiting to see what the waste management contract and where that's going to take us. So we feel comfortable with that $75,000 right now.
Yeah, on that
Side.
refuse, the discussion I've heard being talked about is there's an expectation that landfill costs are going to take a jump again, where they haven't. They've really been stable over the last decade or so.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Don't we have a protection contract with Riverview?
Yeah, we're right now. Yeah, our dumping fees went up in December, And I don't remember when that contract ends.
Well, we've
It's
got
coming-
a fairly long-term contract with
We
them.
had, we had, I don't remember.
With some protection.
Right, with some.
So now we're going to go to page 30.
Before you go to
Oh,
page
yep.
30.
Yep.
What are those employee costs at the bottom there?
Basically, what we did is just put an average employee, that if we talk about, as you were talking about, so we can kind of see, we're going to look at Compo's contract and see how much it's costing and how much, they said, well, how much would it cost a person? So the question was asked, so I put that down. Depending on if you want to stay with Compo or how much a first-year person or an individual maintenance man
So
would cost.
this is, I
That's
mean, it just a
For
suggestion.
analysis purposes.
If you're going to hand this out, let's try and put some headings so somebody can look at this and understand it, not
Okay.
need to have you there to explain it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, but that's all,
Thank
it was
you.
just for
So
analysis
really, it's,
purposes.
Jim, that's a good question. It's really a hypothetical or
Yep.
Right.
sample cost to add a DPW employee.
Yes,
You're really talking about a public works employee.
and maintenance, yep.
So you should-
And what's the two columns?
The first year would be total cost, and the first year, they start at 80%.
Yeah, in their contract.
And is a union.
Okay, so that, again, it's all
Yep, theoretical.
hypothetical.
Yes. I kept getting asked that question, so I just put it on
I
the
didn't,
sheet.
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
The first
that's why.
year, it's 80%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it goes to 85 and so on, until they're 100% after 5 years.
Yeah.
Their wages.
So the first column that starts at 48,000 is really.
That's 100%.
That's
really
a
100%.
5
It's really the fifth year.
Right.
Correct.
Maybe you got to rework that a little bit. I understand what you were doing, and I think it's good to show that. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Are we done with that page?
Yep. So if we go to page 30, it's just the bottom line is just showing you our revenues and expenses. So right now we're over in the revenue by about 130,000 based on the first page, the summary of those three areas.
Well, Ann, you summarized that awfully quickly.
I know, because so and the first column so we got total revenues in the first column, total expenses in the second column. So right now, we're at about $133,000 gain based on the three separate, negative 25,000,
And
an
the
overage
plus.
and 80, and plus 75.
The
That
first,
gives you- yes.
first two columns are for the year
Current
that
year.
we're budgeting.
Correct.
Then the third column
Was the
is
comparison.
prior year,
Correct.
and then we have the differences.
Correct.
So, again, it would, for us laymen, I know it doesn't meet your budget format, but everybody got that? What the columns represent? Okay? All right.
So we're basically projecting about a 10% decrease. Well, like I said, when we'll go over this, a lot of it has to do with capital projects. Page 31 is basically our revenue flow from service charges and meter charges. And again, we're using that number that we use, the 265 million gallons, to come up with those numbers. There's no increase, so if you do the comparison from this year to last year, we're taking revenue down by about 10%, which is the expenses about 10%. So does everyone see that we're at 2.4, a little bit less than last year, but we're not including the rate increase?
Everybody see that?
Everyone understand that?
Any questions?
That's the difference, the
Les, you see
10%
that? What
decline.
she's talking about?
The other thing I talked about many times is the tapping fees. We need to raise the tapping fees. They've been the same for years. I was suggesting that they double the tapping fees.
That's a good suggestion. As part of that analysis, Lorinda, you would see what our neighboring communities are charging as well?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, good thought. Everybody comfortable with page 31? 32? Is your sewer revenue?
Yep, so same thing, based on those gallons, we're decreasing about 4%. Again, no rate increase.
Any questions? Page 33 is refuse.
33, refuse, that revenue stream stays the same, nothing's changed.
Yep.
Just keep moving until people have questions. Pa- I'm sorry.
Okay.
Page
yep.
34?
34. 34, basically, with our employees, just so you can see it consistently throughout, it's based on a percentage. Usually the maintenance are 70-30 is the way they're 70% water, 30% sewer, and then the management and the receptionist or the clerk,
Clerical.
they would be split up more with like 10% to refuse. So there's some of their salary is in refuse.
So,
just because
so
of the
all
phone
all the
calls and-
employees are in everything.
Correct.
Exactly.
To some
Correct.
degree.
Yep.
Why the increase in salaries?
From last year, this year was the additives for the administrative positions along with the decrease from the other position. So there is some variance from
Say again.
management when they stepped up to management. So last year it was budgeted with the other full-time salary.
Who stepped up?
When they
You mean
Lorenda
with the
and John,
increase
yes.
for the?
Increase, yeah.
Not, they
Yes,
didn't.
Lorenda, yes,
She didn't
correct.
step up.
Right,
She,
correct.
Okay, that's just
Right.
the
Yes.
increase for a full year versus
Correct.
a part year.
Yeah, and it's a portion. Like I said, it's a
Okay.
portion between them.
All right.
Now, the salaries are split of the public works
Correct.
staff between water, sewer, and refuse.
Right.
Right.
So it's hard to track that way.
Yeah.
Because
But on the
guys are
whole,
70-30.
one thing I've observed that's happened is we're down one clerical person. That used to do the billing. That position has been eliminated in this budget.
Correct.
And a young lady that worked at the DPW garage has been transferred from the garage to the office now here. So we're down one clerical position, administrative position, correct?
One clerical.
Well, I think a better way to say it is we have one less person here. I don't know that we're necessarily down. The question, but that's me in analysis.
Okay. The one thing I would call to everybody's attention on this page 34 is that we saw a substantial drop at the bottom line, the legal fees, and that
Right.
was because of the OSHA matter, and that's been resolved totally.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
It's all done.
So that
be
dropped our
included.
costs there considerably.
Right.
See that, John?
Yeah, that was a big number.
And how did you disperse the increase in workman's comp payments? Did the majority of that go to the DPS department?
No, that was based across the board on the percentages. It was across the board. It didn't signify it. Our multiplier went up and it affected all the way across. It's across the board.
And wouldn't it be based on whatever you had in wage? Like for whatever
It
you
is based
showed
on
in
a wage, yes.
On
Yes.
water, that's
Yes,
your-
it's a percentage of
Not
wage.
by category?
Well, it's by category and by pay. So it's broken down to like 20 categories, and then the multiplier went up, so it just increased all the...
You and I need to go over that.
Okay, yeah, no, it's spread out throughout the township. It's not specific.
Who's the carrier for that?
Meadowbrook, our plan.
Do you understand that?
And
It's
on,
a township-sponsored
Oh, yeah.
plan.
Township wide.
Yeah, okay.
Loretta,
It's a group.
On overtime, how did you determine overtime?
Just looked at...
Just based on, no,
I'm sorry.
sorry, that's okay.
Either one.
Just based on the trends that we've been doing. We have a history, I think it was a 3-year history.
Yeah.
I have it in here somewhere, like a 3-year history in the current, and we
Just
look at
watching
that, I
that
average,
trend?
and I look at it, yeah, and I just
Okay.
average it out. Same thing with a lot of these categories, you just kind of look to see what you spent. If you can reduce it, you reduce it.
Do we look at what we did? It's also what caused the overtime to begin with? Not just, okay, we spent so much, the trend is this, we'll bring it down. Maybe there was some, I mean, if there was some
Yeah, it could have been the
event
number of water, it could have been the number of water main breaks, whatever. I mean,
snow.
you just have to go back
where
and.
it's, I mean, yeah, do you look at the
I look
fact
at-
that it might be extremely high or extremely low and that you can't just
Yeah.
follow along
Yeah.
with something like that? I just,
Yeah, I go back and I look, and also you have to recall also that I know why the increase has gone up too, because we're down one person in the field as well. and we're still doing what we did before, with the except, we still do a lot of work out there. And so that's why we have overtime. You know, whether it's call-outs in the middle of the night for water main breaks, somebody still has to go out and check it. You know, and they have a 3-hour minimum call-out as well. That's in their contract, so.
Yeah, we need to look at that.
Okay, so 34, yep, the legal fees, that was a big part of that. On 35,
Page 30, yes.
yep, 35, so the big things in there obviously is the water. I took that number from the front page. That's what we're projecting. We're low on the 1,225. We're actually under budget again because our water usage is lower than what we had anticipated. Our usage is lower, so our purchases are lower than anticipated. I said that the main repair, Lorinda and I talked about it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really low right now, but
Yeah,
if you look at trend,
Because you were asking me, because I calculated what we paid out maybe to Compo, and so I calculated from, I think I did a year's analysis. It was a little over 140,000 that we did.
And is that what that would be, main repair would be like what Compo, I mean?
Yeah, that would be
okay.
in there, yes.
All right,
So that's a good number to use right there. I
okay.
kept it the same.
What is transportation? It's not a huge item, but what is transportation?
It's never a huge item.
What is
Transportation could be anything that we have done to the trucks. It could be.
So it'd be repair on trucks?
It could be repair, it could be fuel charges.
Okay, okay.
Public education is the stuff that we do during the year, hand out pamphlets, or it just depends what we do. A lot of times we have mailings for new residents, and we supply them with little how to use water wisely, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do public education that way. Trying to think what else we use in
Well,
there.
it's probably mailing out the required water report. Gets
Yeah.
mailed out too.
yeah.
Yeah, and that too.
Everybody.
Yeah, every year. The CCR.
Just refresh my memory, and Ann, you probably take this one. Administrative expense.
Administrative expenses. Our recreation manager said, "Why am I paying you?" It's basically a 2% across the board for all the funds.
I understand
for-
how it's arrived at. What is it for?
It is to pay for the administration of everything, the accounting work, everyone at Township Hall, the management. It's just like an we don't charge, most communities charge a 1% administrative fee on their tax bill. We choose not to do that. So we internally help the general fund or help pay for administration through the administration charge.
How do we come up or know that the 2% is a valid percent? Well, where I'm going with this is
Yeah.
if you go from water
Oh, sure.
to
Sure.
sewer
Sure.
to
Sure.
refuse, we're paying well over
Yeah.
$100,000
We
in
get
this
good service,
department.
too.
For $100,000, we
It's more,
should.
it's
But-
more policy than
Jim?
actual.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me jump in. I have
Sure.
Years of experience on this. 2% is really a low. I think the auditors would tell.
Don't tell her
I think
that.
the auditors would tell you that in larger cities, it's not uncommon to transfer 8 or 10%. And the theory behind it is,
General fund will
to
pay
what
us.
extent is the city manager, township attorney, finance director, the clerk, the treasurer, and other people, administrative officers, dealing with water and sewer issues? I know that you're involved with them numerous occasions. You're involved with them on numerous occasions. But if you're full-time administrative people in whether the township, I mean, that's the theory behind it.
Well, I understand the
So from
theory, what I'm...
But from the utility systems, which are enterprise functions, and the funds have to be kept separately, it is permissible to transfer amount of money from those operations so that the people paying a water bill, that are buying water, are paying their fair share of the overhead costs of the community, and that's a common practice.
Oh, no,
And
that's-
I've never worked where it's been as cheap as 2%.
That's not the problem.
Give
The
me all
problem I
general
have,
fund.
as you guys know, when I get into budget is, how do I know that's a good figure? How do I know that is representative of what we're doing? Or is it just a figure that's pulled out of the
I
air?
think it's a policy paying ourselves.
I think if you studied it, it'd be
You know,
much
Jim,
higher.
and this question's been answered a number of times before. The reality is that it is all based on total cost of operation, and that formula that they put it into has worked in the past without delineating so much for the police, so much for the fire. A flat 2% rate, everybody gets settled the same. Now, just because your budget's higher, obviously you're going to pay a little more money, but the operating cost of that budget, that high budget criteria is also larger. So I think it's probably a formula that has worked pretty well in the past. And is it completely fair? Probably not. Is it completely askew? Probably not. It's probably very close to what it costs us to run the township.
I just wonder, how often do we look at it to just make sure it's the right things?
I wouldn't even know
And I don't want to take up our time.
Sure,
on
I wouldn't
this.
even know what the formula would be to do that.
I don't think there is one. I think in my experience in working for many cities over the years,
Historically, Jim probably has an inquiry because he's lived here a long time. So I recall specifically the year when the collection fee against the residents was removed.
Yep.
And I recall specifically there was a significant period of time when the township just absorbed those costs. So it hasn't always been in existence on Grosse Ile. That is true, Jim.
Yeah.
well, that's not the same thing.
Well, it is the same.
No, it isn't. It's absolutely different.
There was no...
John, that 1% fee on the taxes,
Yeah.
what treasurers got that passed decades ago so that they could spread the cost of collecting the county and school tax. It has nothing to do with this fee. So it
No,
is
no,
different.
wait, we're
We
talking
don't
about
charge
the
that,
same
though.
thing twice. Here's what I'm saying.
We don't charge the 1%.
In 1984, I knew the treasurer personally, and there was no 1%
just
collection
balance general
fee
fund. I'm gonna
levied
charge you 8%.
against the taxpayers. In 1984 and forwards, for a number of years, at the same time, there was no administrative fee that was saddled against any of the units in government here on Grosse Ile. So historically, that was an operating endeavor for quite a long time. That's all. It's fair to talk about it. It's
Yeah,
not
well,
like it's
why don't
etched in
we-
stone, and we can move on.
Well, let's move on,
Sure.
because that's not, I didn't mean to hold everything up and prolong this.
I'm going to thank Bill on that. I just balanced general fund with no problem. I know where to take it from. Oh. Okay. As far as we looked at
The bonds.
the bonds, so those are the bond payments. It looks like it went up this year, but actually we refinanced 5 of the DPW bonds in last July. This is actually more of an increase in the principal amount because we saved on that transaction about $162,000. So it just looks more in this current year, but it's actually more of the principal payment than interest payment. Okay, another big drop if you look on page 36. Obviously, I'm going to say it
The
wrong.
PRVs.
PRVs was, we budgeted last year, and we don't have that in there this year.
Yeah.
So that makes a huge difference in the rate.
And that's the $280,000.
Yeah, huge difference.
What is the water supply study?
That was evaluating whether or not the township was going to go with Wyandotte water system. Because I called specifically and asked Brains about that, what it entailed. And there was talk about joining Wyandotte, and they were evaluating it.
Why is that in our
We plugged a
current-
figure in there for 10,000 because we don't know if we're still going that way or not.
Oh, so, okay, so there's...
So we don't know, so it's still there.
Yeah, okay, so just because it's an unknown.
It's an unknown still. Same thing with the SCADA upgrade from DWSD. There was talk of upgrading that system that we have down
Yes.
there, so we still budget for it.
Even though there's no plan
Even though
on
there's
the-
no plan for
okay,
it yet,
All right,
yes.
I was wondering,
But
what
we
did
don't
I
have-
miss?
No, you didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything.
Well, just stay on that for a minute. If at some point, not this year, next year, the year after that, if at some point we have some amorphous categories, then they probably should be removed. So my humble opinion is that we'll never join Wyandottes for a number of reasons, and that's been discussed over and over again. So if there are situations like that, which recur over time for 20 or 30 or 40 years, then the assumption may not be correct or prudent at some point. Doesn't have to be this year, but at some point. Realism has to be reflected in the budgets.
In line with that, John, we have the right, don't we, to request that things be retitled in this?
Oh, sure.
And I agree with John, and I think that I don't anticipate we're going to do a water study. I suppose we always could, but
Well,
maybe
I requested under the new water board or commission clarification on the flat rate charges, because the way I understand it, federally and state-wise, that if we have redundancy available, we need to use that redundancy on anything that we do, whether we go with Wyandotte or build our own plant or have a 3-community plant. And the clarification I wanted to know was, does that flat rate still apply if we're not buying water from them on a regular basis? I do not have an answer for that yet. But if that flat rate still applies, then we're stuck. We might as well go ahead and sign a contract.
All right, so in light of that, should we leave it, what I was going to suggest, Ted, is we come up with a different, like a generic allocation for
We don't have to change it now, but those are the kind of things that budget should reflect.
Are you comfortable, is everybody comfortable leaving it as a potential water study, whether it's Wyandotte or whatever? We'll just leave it at that?
Yeah, it's not a big amount right now.
Just leave it like that?
All right, we'll just call it water supply, so we'll leave it there.
Okay, we'll just leave
What
it
I was
there.
going to suggest, if we wanted to plug a number just for capital, because we don't have much of a capital program going, just to plug a number,
What page are you on now, Ann?
36.
36, that we could just come up with a
36.
different, come up with a broader reservation of the money. But if everybody's comfortable with water supply study, doesn't have to be Wyandotte. It could be the Detroit thing, as you say. So
Something else.
we'll just leave it that
Shouldn't
way
be
for now.
Wyandotte.
Just leave it.
But John's right, if something is dropping or changing, we should just delete it.
Just drop it.
Eventually. Okay. Are we comfortable with page 36? So that finalizes the water,
Yep.
ties back to Ann's explanation of revenues versus expense.
Okay, page 37 is just the sewer side of it. No, really.
The auditing fees and the legal
Legal
fees
fees
dropped
again.
dramatically, yes.
Well, on page 37, like Jim asked before, the regular full-time salary differential, it's actually down. Is that, again, that same position?
Yeah, just because the way the allocation is between Lorenda and John Keim, because they both stood up and it was one manager. So it's just the allocation of it all.
All right.
Now, I'm going to make a suggestion. You've reduced the legal fees from 12,500 to 2,500. You know, we are still in the midst of a major discussion with the DEQ with regards to our sewer plant. And I'll leave this to the commission, but I would think we might want to beef that up a little bit in case we need to retain an attorney to extend timeframes or time limits. It's up to you guys, but I would hate to come out and not have the funds available if we feel we need to do that.
Just on the sewer
But
side.
if we left it the way it is, and there's a surplus of 160 or whatever it is, and if you wound up with another 10,000 of legal fees,
Yeah.
you'll amend the budget 2 or 3 times this year during the course of the year. So
Well,
funds will
unfortunately,
be
that
there.
hasn't been the history of Grosse Ile, but
They should be doing that.
I know. I'm with you, but I'm looking at reality, and reality says that it'd be nice to have those funds
Yeah,
there
that's fine.
so that we wouldn't have to go through that
So what
formality.
What's
But-
what's
you
the
want,
number
10?
then?
What if we made it 10,000 and
That's
she
what I
can
was
balance the
thinking,
budget
10.
based on that? We'll just put,
Yeah.
All right,
You
we
can
can
do
change
that.
that.
make it 10,000. The 2,500 then would become 10,000.
Then
Yep.
the surplus would be less.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Right. Okay. Good thought. All right.
Okay. 38.
We left $150,000 in the main repair because of the ACO. There was a 5-year plan of cleaning TV and cleaning the sewers. So we're continuing to do that each year.
And on that point, Ted, on page 38, that 150,000, that we once wanted it to be 500,000, if you remember.
Right. I remember that.
And we cut that, right?
Right.
But to satisfy any inquiry that might be made, where it says maintenance, should it be main instead of repair? Or we could call it main repair, but add to that
Should be maintenance.
TV and main.
It's
Should
not
we
really
include
repair.
TV and inspection in there someplace? In the
I think
title.
it should be, it could be anyway, but it should say maintenance, because I don't
It
think.
says
that-
maintenance.
And we will allocate some of those funds if it's available to the repair of that main if we find a problem.
So I would like to see that read, repair, strike the word main, because it's a sewer line, not a main, but just say maintenance, repair, comma, cleaning, and
TV.
TV.
That's fine.
Okay.
How's that? And then and I think that would help if anybody makes an inquiry from the state on, are we inspecting our sewer lines? Okay?
Yep.
You got those bond payments.
Yep, and then we got the bond payments again, and then the transfer out is what's on the treatment plant side, and we'll see that. So the equipment purchase was the truck, so that was done, so we took that out. And so the transfer from the treatment plant is down based on capital improvement. We can look at that next. Why don't we just go to that? So page 42.
I think that number, I'm going to have to redo that number, that 407.
Okay.
Yeah, I might have to redo that one. There's a cushion in there I put, because I didn't know what our talks were going to end up, so.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we're on page
Now I
42.
can read
Yep.
this.
We have the operating contract, and that's consistent with what's being proposed.
Yeah, I have to readjust it, because now that I know what it is, I don't have to, guess.
Well, what's the overtime?
That's allocated in each fund, water, sewer, and refuse.
No, that's his time.
Oh, for his, yeah.
Yeah.
That's his overtime, his people.
Due to weather or DT, it's things beyond operator control.
Yep.
Oh, outside the
It's
contract.
outside
His.
of the contract.
Yeah, it's been in the contract, that's the
Well-
$50 an hour.
Yeah, it's not outside of, but
Yep.
separate from
Right.
the
It's
fee.
things
Yep.
beyond the control of the operator,
Right,
but that are routine, like storms and power outages.
right. And we left it at 5,000, because that was a good number still to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still a good
So
number.
the only variance is in the capital then, and we're going to spend considerably
spending
less
a
than we
lot
did
less.
last
Yeah.
year.
And those are
Do
all
we
the
need,
contracts.
you want to go through those, or can we read them off if somebody has a question?
I just have a comment on these fixed backup generators. They're for the lift stations, Joe.
Yes.
Do you have,
I wrote-
are they going to be scheduled to be done this year?
I'm surprised we didn't get them done last year. They're not going to be done by April 1st. It was in the budget, but we just moved it, it's not going to be done.
All right.
So we pushed it to next year.
Maybe we should look at doing one or two a year, or?
We wanted to, and this is going back, because Barry and I have worked on this for like 2 years. We want them all the same.
Right,
Right.
I'm with you.
We don't want to get, different manufacturers in there and.
Right. I go along with that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But do we need to do them all? And is it realistic that we'll do them this year, or isn't it?
I see that Rain's company's still billing for doing the engineering on it, so that's the hangup, it's still an engineering.
Well, then,
That leaves me with a question about Rain's Company. When billing comes through with Rain's Company, who itemizes all of their invoices and bills to us, which I sign the checks on, and they're approved by you,
Yep.
or they're approved by whatever department they go through, does Joe get a chance to review what's being done on that? That, anything that's
No,
applied
not on those.
to the sewage plant?
No, not on
Because a
those.
lot of that cost goes to him. It would be nice to have the people, so that the onus isn't on you to say, yeah, he was here all the time. Does that look realistic to the departments that are involved, whether it be Joe, Dale, whoever? Because when I get them, they're approved by a manager. I do review them, but I really, without virtually going out and taking a look at what he's doing, I have no way of breaking those down. I just think it would be a good double check for you to, if it's related to the plant, have Joe look at it.
Sure, I can do that.
If it's
That's no
related
problem.
to the water system, you look at
I'll
it
look
and
at
you
it, yep.
approve it. Or have John look at it and he can approve it.
I agree.
Because that gives
You
us,
don't mind? Okay.
it
With
eliminates
me? Okay.
the ability to question.
Okay.
Make sense?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I
it does
agree.
make sense.
And Joe, I guess to follow up on that, we had it in this year's budget. I don't have this year's budget. Yeah. It's something we all thought was necessary, and when you had the bad storms this year, you guys were going crazy for a couple of days, moving generators around because of the power outages. So, and my thought is, what's the fund balance for capital outlay in our wastewater system?
It's about 3.2 million.
3.2 million. I see no reason to spread this over more than 1 year. We ought to just go do it and get it done. That would save on overtime, and then it would save on the reliability of the system, too.
Bill, I didn't suggest we spread it over years. I just want to see a real number here. If he's going to do it this year, great. If he's not going to do it this year, great. Let's reflect it on the budget.
All right, I'm with you on that, and I would like to see it get done as soon as possible. So you need to go back to engineers and at the next meeting, give us an update of where that is.
Okay, then what does this number represent?
The $70,000?
Yeah.
That is purchase and installation.
For how many?
5.
For 5, so it is for,
It's a pretty realistic number. Now, I sent
It-
Kyle an email asking, because we're talking, putting the
Yeah.
automatic transfer switches in. And I...
Joe, you need to come up to the podium.
yeah.
You're not being recorded on TV. Sorry.
yeah.
No, that is a realistic number. I did email Sahil and he never got back to me on, okay, now we're talking the transfer switches, is the $70,000 a good number? Since I didn't hear back from him, I didn't change it.
Okay. Now, I noticed it did go up from
It
the
went
move
up.
over, it went up from 60 to 70.
And that was
What-
basically accounting for the transfer switches.
Okay.
Can you get us an answer by the next meeting?
I will try.
Well, we wanted
I mean,
to...
I have to talk to Sahil. There's been, sometimes I think why I might not hear back is Sahil's contracted directly with her, and
Well, that's
a
fine.
lot of our communication does legally has to go that way.
The two of you should
And
get...
you can work with Lorenda, but we still need a price. We'd like to see what this cost is going to be for the next meeting.
Okay.
Because it isn't going to be long, we're going to be finalizing this budget, and if we have to make a major adjustment,
Rather do it now.
I'd like to get it in this budget so it reflects what it's going to be.
Okay.
I absolutely agree. Before you get out of the podium, there needs to be better collaboration on all these issues, on the engineering, Lorinda, between you and Joe and the engineers, on every one of these issues.
Well, I should probably
And-
review the invoices.
All right, we're given that that's going to be the case from now on.
Okay.
The question I have on these generators, does that include the DTE work to get power to the source? You need to check that out.
It would be like installing a home generator. The DTE power goes there.
Oh, there's no power. There's no power necessary.
Right.
Okay, I'm
it's a
sorry.
transfer switch.
I
in a
misspoke.
sense.
Okay, I misspoke.
But we got to get natural gas to it, that would include that.
Hopefully, but I'm pretty sure natural gas is right. All the sites are right.
Well, you say right there, it could
But
be
you
the other
still
side
got
of
to
the
tap the
road.
gas line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that...
Let me talk to Sahil and I'll
We're not trying to put you on the spot, Joe, we're just trying to get
yeah.
a number.
No, I understand. Let me talk to him tomorrow and see And bring up the thing about the gas, because.
Well, we want a full estimate and a progress schedule of how it's going to
Okay.
move forward. I think we'd all like to see it installed. And it would be a big help to you and for the security of our residents as well. Let's get it done. We have the money. Let's do it.
And for the budget too, because you wouldn't want to have, you have 3 years, you wouldn't want to have 70,000, 70,000, 70,000, it only costs 70,000. You just over budgeted 140,000 on that example, using 70 grand. That's the thing. That's why it's important to complete the projects. Hopefully,
Right.
within the fiscal year, when possible. Not always possible.
Right. But, yeah, this has been in engineering for the whole year.
All right, since you're up at the podium, let's go through those capital items. We already talked about the generators. The plant HVAC system, in a few words, describe what you're going to do there.
The bulk of that would be replacing the ventilation fan for the RBC building.
All right, that's a $17,000
That's
item. We
pretty
looked at
much
that.
most of the $17,000, and Bill saw that today.
The explosive gas detectors in the wet well in the primary room.
Those are obsolete piece of equipment. The one in the primary room no longer works. It kind of fried itself, and I got some parts for it, but I still couldn't get it to work.
So you need
So these are
replace it.
new parts, I mean, new.
Yeah,
yes,
replacing it.
Replacing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, mixer blade on the blender tank.
I spoke to that probably about 4 or 5 months ago to you guys. It was to shed the rags instead of accumulating and having the thing run out of balance and destroying the gearbox, which we've had 2 destroyed over the years.
These are to shred things that come into the sewer system.
It just mixes the sludge with the lime so we can lime stabilize it and put it on the farm fields.
Okay. The control building electrical conduits, I saw that today, and I'll describe it in one word. Now that we have lighting in the lower level where the intake comes in, you can see that some of the material around the electrical circuits is fried. Has to be replaced. That's what it is. The raw sewage pump variable frequency drive rebuild.
These are the 2 units that were fried when we had the automatic transfer switch test a year ago. I still have them, and the cost to get them rebuilt is about 1/3 of the cost of replacing new. And they're just like brand new when you get them. They're just, it's just electronic stuff.
So you were comfortable with that.
Yep.
The room and pipe gallery.
That's
The
like
electrical
a
conduits
conduit.
in the primary room.
That's, and actually part of that is,
Station room,
um,
and pipe gallery.
and I explained to Bill how the slabs, the part of why this stuff is deteriorating, at least the ones coming out of the ceiling, the slabs for the building, we have to dig around, someone's got to dig around the building and reseal that, because water is getting in and coming up between the 2 slabs, up in the ceiling, basically, and getting into the conduits, and the conduits are actually rotting from the inside out, not from...
This is the ceiling of the third basement level.
Yeah, the primary tank room.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe we need to ask
Yeah,
Joe to
that should be-
describe that a little differently.
Yep,
And then replacing the raw sewage pump, $20,000.
yep.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Can we move on?
Yep, so that pretty much covers
You
that.
gave up on the garage?
Oh,
For this year.
do we have to back up, Ann?
Yeah, then we're going to go back to 39. We'll go back to the refuse.
Well, refuse hasn't changed, right?
No, not, I mean,
contract,
contract
that's
is the
all.
only thing in there, and it's $11,000 change. So, yeah, no, there's nothing really there.
All right, so really nothing to explain on refuse.
No.
Nope.
On page 40, that's 69,000 that stands out. That's really the reserve amount that's available.
Yep.
To
Yep, we'll put the...
take
reserve
on
in,
additional costs in the future.
if anything comes up.
That'll forestall the need to increase rates down the road.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
Page 43. Now, you've distributed today a new
Yep.
drainage.
New drainage, yep.
And everybody should have that in front of you, and a new draft of the roads. So would you explain the drainage then?
Yep, they're in your capital project. We kind of simplified it and just made it between the drainage grant program. So we're going to get property taxes. We got about $1 million carryover from the prior years. When we budget these, they're 100% of what our collection is. So we do fund balance plus current, since we know it's what we have available. So what we simplified it and just put drainage maintenance with everything that's involved in the drainage program. We guess on the $100,000 on drainage program. It just depends
That's what we
on.
put in there half a year.
We're going to separate it out so it's an easy number to find in our trends. We think it'd be a good idea to do that. And then,
But I want to make a comment on the drainage fund. We have a fairly substantial balance in that drainage fund. Wayne County is pretty much disowned. All of the Wayne County drains, as they have their roads. I see there's going to be some major drain work coming up where we have to address some issues that probably should be addressed by Wayne County. And Wayne County, we would normally have considered a Wayne County drain. So there will be some projects coming forward. I think this commission, which is also the Drain Commission, by the way, this commission needs to look at those. And I've already had a conversation with Dale. He's going to bring some of this forward. And I've had a conversation with Ohio. He's going to bring it forward. And most of that funding is going to have to come out of this. And it's going to be island-wide.
So Ted, can you describe a little more detail what you're talking about?
Well, we've got some issues with the old Wayne County drain that runs back between Parkway and Smith's Cut back in through there that drains the wetlands and through that area and comes back down. That has to be addressed. There's a drain that you worked on that I'm not sure we're complete with that. I think we got a fix, but I don't think we've got the full answer there.
Is that over by you, Les, that same area that he's talking about? The Smith
No.
Cut? No?
No, but that needs to be addressed.
This is the area by the fire station.
But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to get together with Ohio. This will be an aggressive approach over the next year because we've got these funds. We might as well use them for what they're intended for.
Yes, and if my view is if the drain money, I'm looking at this $150,000 in there as the one item. See it?
The relocation of road, and for road improvements.
That's not what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm not using that. Don't do that.
There's just a line item. I think it's a plug figure, just to have money in there.
It was like relocating a drain at the corner of Horse Mill.
Right.
Okay. But we could use that for any drain, really, if we wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
it just says road district.
Unless
Yeah,
you use it-
I don't think it's
use
a
it for what
specific
you're
time.
talking
Road
about, Les.
improvements.
So in April, we'll have to decide, or whenever it comes forward, what we're going to do.
But we have some real drain issues on this island, so Ohio is fully aware of them. We kind of ignored them because it's Wayne County drains, it's their problem. But like everything else, they're not going to address it, so.
Okay.
What about the bike path drainage? Is that just for drainage issues along the bike path, or what exactly?
That is the invoice with Safe Routes to School yet. We have not paid that invoice. We are still arguing with Wayne County over that
Is that
portion of it.
over and above the 100 and, is that part of the 100 and some thousand?
That is the
or it-
$130,000 split between drainage and bike path. That
Okay,
is
so-
still unpaid. I'm leaving
so
it
that-
out there.
and together
It's still
they
unpaid.
would be that total
Correct.
bill.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Clarify that, Ann, we're not arguing with Wayne County, we just
Oh.
refused to pay it.
Correct. It's on the desk. Disputing, yes.
Yeah.
So
Disputing.
Better
until
word.
we
Miranda,
see it
you're-
closed, it's going to show
You're
up.
still
Correct.
maintaining the
We're
billing
disputing it.
process to Wayne County for everything we do on Wayne County roads
Everything
and
that we
right-of-ways
do,
and all that
we will
stuff?
send them our final bill.
Oh,
But you are sending those bills?
We know what we have to send them, yes.
Okay, we
Yes.
need to get that in, because it's going to be part of this argument.
yeah.
Okay.
Exchange of services.
Well,
Exchange of services, I like that.
so there's a good chance as we look at the drain budget that it could change.
Well, I think we need to, we will be utilizing some of it this year for sure. But I think it's good for the budget I just wanted to bring that forward because it looks like a fairly substantial amount, but once we start working, it probably won't be.
That includes the Crosville drain.
In line with that, Ted, I don't know that we're going to, in April, drive the roads like we've done in the past, because we already have, as you're going to see in the road budget, all our money's already obligated. We have the local road initiative, and then we've got the chip seal program, and that's all we're going to be able to do. So we probably, when you're ready to bring in the drain stuff, we'll talk about all the drain improvements at one time, including the one you mentioned, Les.
I think we still need, if we have, depending on what happens with the Wayne County initiative, with the $600,000 and what happens with the millages we're going to bring forward, I think we can still look at the potential of bonding future revenues from the millages we got coming in if there's something major that you want to do. I think there is a way to finance it.
I follow you. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Next is page 44, and you got a new page 44 given to you by Ann.
Yep.
You want to explain that, Ann?
Yep. Basically, we're looking at the road collection of 229. As we were saying before, there's a prior year fund balance of 290. We looked at history of the dust control, which is about 38,000. Snow plowing is running about 48,000. And then I think Bill got some new estimates regarding the chip seal. So we put in 275 for that, and then an additional 30 possibly for repairs to the roads. And then the local initiative, if that continues to go through, the 20% of the 500,000, and that basically takes care of the road budget in the next year. So.
And the 520,000 balance is really all the money we'll have.
All the money, that's just about it.
Now, the one thing I want to call your attention, Ted, on that page is the supplemental repair in the chip seal program, the $30,000. You mentioned earlier East River between Grow and Manchester. I drove that Sunday. And yesterday, talked to Ann and Miranda about that. I checked the bids that we originally got for chip seal. There was $30,000, $29,000 in that figure. That section of East River was $95,000 to chip seal. It's a little over a mile. So I looked at the $30,000 and talked to Sohail, and we both concluded we should double that. So of the 95 that we already bid, 30 of it is to come in and mill off a couple inches and resurface that. As I said, that southbound lane is really breaking up.
It is bad.
And we don't want to chip seal as one of our examples, an area, and then have it fall apart.
Yeah.
So Hill and I talked about it, and we just pulled this out of the air. Let's double the amount of money that's available to do that, the base repairs, before we chip seal. That's what that $30,000 is.
Okay, that's fine.
So you're right about your observation. That's my point. Okay?
Yep. Quick question. Why is LaSalle Court listed?
We
Just
can take
told her to
that.
take it
Yeah,
off.
that was just,
I told her
Thank you.
black it
we're
out.
If you guys are done with that, we're
We're
taking it
done
out.
with it.
Okay.
Yep.
Just one last couple comments. These budgets will be reviewed by the executive board in the next couple of weeks. I think what you need to look at is spend some time and look at pages 45 through 51. Very informational with the history for the last 3 years. And so if you guys see anything that's out of the ordinary or whatever that we missed, let us know in the next couple of weeks here before they get finalized.
I think we covered it
Okay.
pretty well.
What's that?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I do too. So are there any other budget questions?
Yeah, I had one question.
Yes.
On the road improvement, we have $48,000 in there for snow plowing and winter maintenance. Is that the money that's going to the county?
Some of it's going to the county. We've put some cushion for compo and stuff that we had it done this year.
Well, I think we should stop paying the county.
Yeah, and that's a board
It's a board
decision.
decision, yeah.
Well-
Because Bill checked into it, and there's nobody else around here that's paying. We're the only fools that are giving them money, and then they don't show up.
I think that should be a discussion.
So the question I have on that is, Les, you're right, but did we get a bill this year? Because it didn't come here.
Yeah. Yeah, we did get a bill.
we
Went to
did
the
pay
township
it?
board, yes. For
38,000?
last
It
year.
was 38,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
38,000.
Is that for this year or last
For
year?
last, well,
For
based
Well,
on
it's based
last
on
one.
last year's snowfall,
But it's this year's.
but it's this year's bill, correct.
So I guess maybe you and I as treasurer, Ted, you and I as chairman, we should take on the obligation to go see the new people at the county and make an inquiry. I mean, I'd be willing to do this in the spring. Go and see how many other communities they're billing, because the ones I checked with, if you remember, none of them were
Yeah,
paying
you
anything.
check all the townships.
The townships. I checked with Huron, Canton, and Brownstown. And they said, what do you mean? So, however this started, and again, it could be because we're being discriminated against because we're an island.
It started a long time ago when John Neidhart was the chairman of the road committee. I was on the road committee way back when. Can't tell you what year it was. It was brought up that this would be a priority service that would pay the county. I was against it way back then, and I'm still against giving the county the money because they don't give us priority service.
They have an obligation to do our roads during the snow.
But they're their roads.
Absolutely. So we need to pursue this before we spend any more money with them. We probably already paid that, but let's do it this year.
We did.
Okay? Now, should I work with Ted to do that, or should I work?
Well, work with both.
Or the three of us?
Work with both of us.
Let's say our decision will be to pursue this. I think we have to give the new administration a chance, but we'll figure out I don't know who the letter came from, or who it went back to.
I think it comes from the road commission.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get tough on it. I agree. Okay.
And those arrangements go both ways, so if someone just sat there and really did nothing, and it's 5% a year, 10% a year, in 10 years' time, it doubles. So it could go the other way, too. Maybe that's a good idea at a very modest sum, so the scale can go the other way, too.
Yeah, it
But-
does.
Right.
It's based on that.
But if nobody else is paying it, why are we?
I understand fully.
Well, we had a much better rapport with the county way back then when the road committee was doing this. We
They
used,
probably do Brownstown on the way to Grosse Ile. And on the way to Grosse Ile, there's no other place. We're not on the way to anything.
Out of the bar.
Jim said Amherstburg. I don't know if you picked that up.
You'd have to get going pretty fast.
Yeah, did you see the Google Maps? They had the land contiguous
All right,
about
so-
3 weeks ago.
So can I have a motion to approve the rough draft of the budget with the revisions we've made today?
So moved.
Is there support? Is there support?
I'll support it. I'm just waiting for somebody else to jump in.
All right, so it's been moved and supported that, based on the revisions we've discussed today, and asked the finance director and director to make, is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the budgets, the preliminary draft of the budgets to the township board as we've changed them? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion's passed. Okay. No public comment. Chairman has no report. And commissioners' reports. We'll start with Les. Anything in the report, Les?
Yes, we need to replace some water main. 950 feet of water main. We had another water main break on the Parkway Main that is between West River and Waterway. And all that is down there, it's going through the swamp. And every time we do that, we can't fix it with a backhoe, we have to get a track machine in there. So we measured it out, 950 feet of 8-inch water main. I think this should be set in motion to replace that main with an upgrade in the main.
Okay, so you just heard in our budget review that we have no capital money left in our water fund. So,
We need to get prices, we have to have Joe give us a price.
all right, so we'll have to figure out where to fund
Yeah,
it.
there's different ways of doing this. It can be a pipe burst, and they can pull it through. They don't have to go down the swamp and dig.
All right, so what I guess we should do, Lorinda, is I don't know if you know what Les is talking about. I'm unclear as to what you're.
John Kime is the one that measured this for me, and I remember 3 times I had to get when I was working, we had to get a track machine in there to repair the main break. And what happens is it breaks, and you don't really notice it because it's all going right in the canal. And then when you do find it, it is misery to try and fix it.
All right, so if this is an important issue, you
Very.
agree it is, apparently?
Because
Well,
when
unless we want the consumption to go up. Dan was pointing out that the consumption was way down. Well, that kind of stuff takes care of it.
But nobody's paying.
All right, what I would ask then is, Lorinda, you get with Les and John Kime and figure out exactly what the area we're talking about, the area that would be replaced. Is it a straight line segment?
there's no houses connected to it, there's nothing. It's just a straight shot from West River right up to that first house in Watervane.
All right, and then go to the engineers and ask them to do a diagram and a cost estimate and bring it back at our next meeting. Does that work?
That'll work.
Okay? Do you have anything else? Les?
No, nothing else.
John?
Nothing further.
Chair has
No.
nothing. Jim?
Could you give us an update on the Parkway proposal to pave to Jefferson and then down to Slocum? The county was supposed to work on it, the paperwork in 15, and they were going to build it in 16. Do we know if that's still going on or not?
That was that's the Jefferson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
that
certainly
was-
we can check on it this
Yeah.
week. And I'll give you a report on that at the next meeting. I thought it was to be built this year.
Yeah, so did I.
2015.
said it was on track for this year.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
it's
did I.
14, 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know the status of it.
I don't think the
We can make an inquiry on
Yeah,
that.
you're right. It was 14, 15. I'm sorry.
So I will make an inquiry on that,
Okay, thanks.
and I'll get you a report at the next meeting.
Thank you.
I'm making a note here.
Because Ted's Jeep is getting beat up by going down that road every day. And his poor brain.
Uh,
Got a half hour, let it rip.
All right, Jim Budney, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Ted, anything else? All right, thanks for everybody for sticking in, hanging in on the budget and the other items. Joe, thank you. Any other, Lorinda, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Ann, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah.
It's always helpful. I'll entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Support.
Move supported, we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.